What up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Podcasts and Players. And today's guest, you might know from his D&D monster Pokefusions videos or his D&D animated stories like Seducing Monstrosities, which was a pretty awesome viral hit, if I do say so myself. I think it's awesome. He's an absolutely amazing digital artist and a super nice person. Please welcome the one, the only, Jess Jackdaw.
Hey, how's it going? I'll be getting out more D&D stories eventually, hopefully. So, it's just...
Listen, this is a safe place. We don't pressure our guests.
We don't pressure the guests.
Content. However, clock's a ticking, all right?
Clock's a ticking. Where is it at?
God, I'm one to talk. People have been waiting.
Oh, yeah. My sister's very much on my case about, like, when is it out? When? I'll post a video and, like, the next day is like, when is it out? But, yeah.
That's a supportive family member. That's nice.
Oh, yeah, it's good. But yours, too. Yours are such quality, too. And, like, you put a lot of effort into, like, your videos. And, like, we don't hound. This is a safe space.
Thank you. That was really...
But when's your next one out?
Oh, by the way, when's it coming out? I would never pressure anybody, especially considering how long I take on my stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But, yeah.
Because it's hard. I mean, like, people are like, people can see the video in like 5 minutes, but in reality, it takes like days, weeks, months, whatever, like to, and a lot of us, we don't make a living off of it, so it's it's just a side thing.
It's very much a side thing, and the thing is, like, if I cared more about the algorithm, if I wanted to start making a living off it, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. Like what I'm making is not YouTube friendly at all.
Not at all. Like it. I mean, yes, some like YouTube and like YouTube animations, like the storytime animations type thing, like, yes, like, you can go viral with those, but it's hard, man. It's, like, very hard.
Yeah, you gotta get, it's definitely a factor of luck and a factor of just, like, I don't know, you gotta tap into something. And we don't, it's like drilling for oil. Like, you never know when you're gonna strike gold.
Right. But that's not really the point. I think the point is that you're just having fun doing if you're trying to chase the YouTube algorithm, it's gonna be pretty difficult.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's the thing. A lot of those channels like will be trend chasers, right? And then they'll make a bunch of Minecraft videos, and then that falls off the wayside. No one's watching that anymore, so they have to kind of change what they're doing.
Yeah. I feel like by the time that you see the trend happening, it's already too late. It's already kind of, not to be like a downer, but like it's like, it's probably on the way out at that point.
Yeah. And even this, like, I know that like D&D stuff is growing right now. And so this is sort of, in a way, us catching a wave. But I mean, even if it wasn't, I'd still be making this content. Even if like no one's watching, I want to make it,
Yeah, because it's mostly just sort of a way to like tell stories in a fun, fantastical way that's not... I feel like my actual life is like relatively boring. I don't think I would be able to come up with enough like... Which is good. I'm thankful for it. I don't want my life to like be constant drama and like... I don't know.
Yeah,
but I can talk about the drama in D&D terms. I think that's a healthy amount of like way to like, unwind and deconstruct stories like that instead of stressing out about real life events.
Right.
Yeah.
For sure. I honestly, like, I have I have Lifetime stories I could do. Man, I've got all these video ideas, but anything I do is going to take away from this big series I work on. And so it's like, I really have to... This podcast is the exception because it's talking, and I don't have to animate anything. I just have to, like, draw a head.
You have to do a thumbnail.
A thumbnail and a head.
You gotta make sure that thumbnail is exquisite.
I gotta spend like 3 hours editing the audio and making sure it sounds good, taking out our uhs and ums, which will...
Oh god, I always hate doing that.
It's fine. Those are okay. I don't take them all out. I just reduce them so that they're not like permeating it.
Seeing behind the curtain, it's like all those things all those ums. Let me just throw in some a lot of yep. Yes. Just despite the
I've joked about that before, just taking them all and not deleting them, but separating them so I could have like a compilation of us and
beautiful. Oh gosh.
That's
For one of
something
those
I think the world is not
YouTube
ready
poops,
for.
you can just put on your channel compilation of all your guests all in one hour video.
Man, I wish I wasn't so not lazy, but my mind just kind of can't focus on stuff that I'm not super duper interested in. And I already have like a tough time sitting down and focusing on the things in my animation that are like really tedious. Like right now, I'm adding spider webs to backgrounds. Like easy, sure. Tedious, yes, very tedious. I'm not enjoying it. I'm just like, all right, I gotta hit here and
Is there context to the scene, or is it just
it's
like
a
there
dusty
used to be
spider-webbed attic
everywhere?
It's got to have lots of spider webs, otherwise it won't look like an old attic,
Nice.
And so
this classic, like, it's almost like the corner sons of like of drawing. Spiderwebs are kind of fun to make. They're just kind of like, well, after you make your 50th one, they're not as fun, but like,
yeah, it's not even that not fun. I guess it's just I'm impatient. I just want to be done, Like I've been working on this on and off, not constant, like just on and off because I've had other side projects I've worked on. Like I did a Q&A video and I did like a thing for Aiden and his collab. It's like a 5-minute thing that's not even on my channel. Like I worked on that for like a month and a half. So every time I do a side thing, I'm not working on the other thing. And now,
oh God, I feel that so much.
Oh yeah,
it's because I a lot of my bread and butter is commissions and like doing freelance work, and usually it's commissions for companies. I don't do a lot of single commissions from people. I'm sorry. I know a lot of people ask about that, but I usually don't.
Well, companies pay a lot more than individuals, I bet.
Right. Well, usually it's like it's a big project, and it's just like, a one and done thing where it's like, I can do this, and it's, one big check at the end, and I can just power through it.
Do you do any work for like Wizards?
I've applied to Wizards before, but I'm not quite there yet, I don't think.
That's nuts to me, because you have some amazing skills.
Oh, thank you. I don't know what it takes to get into Wizards. I don't know if you have to like know a guy or like
maybe
you have to like shine Chris Perkins's beautiful chrome head.
I don't know how any of that industry works, because like it could just be they have a ton of artists already, and so maybe
I think so. I mean, it's one of the more illustrious freelance, kind of like. This is where you've made it type jobs.
Right.
If you get commissioned by like Wizards and stuff,
like
they are lush. They treat their artists right.
They could get a new up and coming artist to do a cover, or they can just get Wayne Reynolds again. And like Wayne Reynolds is a really good artist, so they just have him make all these covers and make all these.
Yeah, and I get that. So it's like so like maybe eventually, but I'm not holding my breath. So it's all
I think you'll get there. I want to ask, like, where in a very loose sense did you acquire your skills? Did you make a blood sacrifice in exchange for dark gift of illustration? Like, how did that work?
No, it's just like no one wants to hear it, and a lot of like artists get frustrated, but like it's just like a buildup of a lot of time dedicated to just drawing.
Boo! I want a secret tip or trick that'll get me to where you're at.
All right. You want the cinch. All right. So you go down this alley. There's this man named Tony. He's gonna give you the goods. You're gonna be able to draw like like fucking Picasso.
Yeah, you gotta sleep with this orb for like a month, and then you'll have the skills to get the goods.
You get the skills to pay the bills, all right? You don't need to go no Bardic college, all right? You telling me? So, all right.
Did you go to school for like art, or is this all like self-taught stuff?
Well, I did go to a state school. I got a degree, like digital media, which was mostly just like graphic design with a little bit of 3D animation thrown in there, and some weirdly some game design thrown in there as well. But like, yeah. So, I did pick up a little bit of art skills in college, I guess, but I honestly like so long as you're motivated, I feel like there's some really great online tutorials out there and really great like online programs. So, especially during this COVID stuff, not to date this video, but maybe look into those instead of, going back to school. I don't
It's
know.
okay. You can date this because like this podcast came out right at the beginning of 2020, which is the year of COVID. So this first year is going to be a COVID year. It's totally
going to
fine.
be like, yeah, the year of COVID. 2020, did I survive? I don't know yet. We'll see in a few months.
The year's not over.
But yeah,
like what resources could you recommend for Philistines, uncultured swine like myself who don't know how to draw?
I mean, if you want the real download cheap, there is like, crazy amount of YouTube content dedicated to just learning, like getting your feet wet with digital art. Oh gosh, I'll maybe provide you some links to put in the bottom of your video for people, because they're not coming to me immediately. But definitely like there's some Gumroads from artists. If you wanted to like pay for some tutorials, they're really great. Like for example, Robot Pencil has a whole series that he does. He also has a full, and Robot Pencil also goes by Anthony Jones. He works as a concept artist for a lot, like Sony Entertainment, I think right now. But he does mostly freelance work. His work is gorgeous. And I followed a lot of his tutorials, just because I love the way he explains things. He's very casual. But like honestly, if you enjoy some artist's work, just kind of like check out to see if they've got tutorials. Sometimes they do. I don't, because I'm very bad at explaining things. But yeah, I don't know. It's weird. Also, I guess one of them download tips to keep in mind is to use reference. I'm going to smack people if they don't use reference because they feel embarrassed or something, because that's stupid, and all artists use reference. Like you will go on their Twitch streams and see that they've got, no matter who it is, they've got reference up usually.
Yeah. I don't know who's against references. I think people are mostly like, oh, tracing's bad. And I don't know. Like, tracing in the early stages, when you're still trying to like grow as an artist, it shows you like, by tracing, you learn line curves, like how they're supposed to be shaped on a certain angle of an object or a person. You learn proportions a little bit better that way. Like, tracing can be really helpful for getting your feet wet. And then eventually you can use references and just kind of, it's like,
yeah, exactly,
flying from the nest.
I think at least early on, like sometimes you hear like young artists like feel embarrassed to use reference because it's like cheating, where they feel like it should just come, out of your mind, like fully formed. Even like professional artists are able to like, like, I can visualize this perfectly. I know exactly the way, I don't know, a dog's muzzle looks or something.
Right.
And it's like, no, I can maybe approximate what it looks like, but sometimes I don't know 100%. And until you like build up that visual library in your brain, that's not going to happen. So.
Right. Like I'm drawing a crow, or a raven rather, for my series, but I had to use a lot of references to learn how their beaks are shaped, how their bodies are shaped, the wing shape, and when it's folded in, when it's folded out, how they fly, what their tails look like, their feet, and the angles that their legs are in when they're just like standing normally and walking around. Like all that stuff, like I didn't just intuitively know. I don't own a raven, like I can't just look at my raven. I had to go online.
Yes, let me bring up my raven. It's like right here.
I had to look at tutorials and go online, and now I can make a decent raven from memory. It's not going to look 1-to-1, but you can tell like when you look at it, oh, that's a raven. or something
Yeah,
like
exactly.
that. Corvid, not COVID.
COVIDs. But yeah, like it gets a lot easier over time, and it it's kind of the rule of 100. It's like if you do 100 of something, you're gonna the 100th one is gonna look a lot better than your first.
Right.
So yeah, I
It's
mean, I even look at like my spectator that I've drawn like so many times now, and like the ones that I draw now look a lot better than the ones that I were initially drawing for the channel. So at least to me, at least.
well, yeah. I mean,
Anyway.
well, you've developed your style with that character and their proportions and stuff. I did that too. I mean, you can look at the first episode of the Peace Guild, and it's like the proportions of the eyes and like people's heads and stuff, like they're changing pretty rapidly. Like just because I've spent so much time drawing these characters and I'm learning like, okay, I have these tendencies to make the heads too big or to make the eyes too large on the face or not spaced right or not even. So like, over time, my drawings get better and like, it's not like they're more realistic in the sense of like realism. I'm a cartoonist, but like they're more consistent, which is something that I've always struggled with as an
Oh
artist is
yeah,
consistency.
same. It's like, well, that's the problem with like style evolution, is that sometimes like when you begin a project and you're not really sure how to like draw a certain thing, and then by the end of the project it looks completely different, and it's like those web comics, you can see like an artist change and grow
Oh yeah.
in the interim of making a thing,
Sometimes
which is
they're
cool.
not even necessarily like better, but they're just more refined. They're like streamlined in a sense.
Yeah, exactly.
And
They've just got more efficient machine of making a thing,
for
which
sure.
shows like you've improved a lot. Heck yeah!
Thank you. I've been your Pokefusions videos for a lot of inspiration. And I want to ask, what led you to making videos on YouTube?
I think it was just kind of an impulse thing. It was just like, I really. So I think it was a combination of things. Mostly Dingo and like Puffin and them, and seeing them do D&D stuff. But I was coming back into D&D after a long time of not being able to play, not having anyone to play with, and so I was doing online D&D at the time, and I was just like, man, I've got some funny stories. I kind of want to like try this out. It seems fun. I don't know. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just like, okay, here we go. Let's try this out. So, I mean, and I was also kind of like at a very sad time in my life as well, where like I had to move back in with my parents because I struggled finding work after college. I had like, I'd taken a job working in a graphic design studio, but it was okay. And I was just like, I just want to do some art, for me, and do something fun, and like finally just like, as an almost like an escapism thing. And I was just like,
right.
Okay, let's do. I don't care where this goes. I'm just kind of doing this to like, as a fun side project, and I don't know, it's still fun to do sometimes. I've enjoyed where it's sort of gone, and like I've been able to like interact with cool peeps like yourself, and like meet people in the community, and I love the D&D community. It's like a awesome.
I gotta say, I think that's my favorite part, is that like it connects a lot of people. Because people see videos and they're like, oh my God, I'm such a big fan of your videos. And then like suddenly you're talking to this person and you find out, wow,
yeah,
they're a person. Like, it really humanizes everybody. And you're not like putting people up on pedestals so much. You're just like, oh, this is just a really cool person who makes cool content.
I don't know, like people, I don't consider myself like that successful or anything, and it kind of surprises me that like people are like, "Oh wow, you do cool stuff," and it's like, "Oh, what? Okay, I mean, sure."
Well, you do though. Like, for example, that series you did, the Rabbit Hole series, blew me the fuck away. How much work that you put into that to make all those assets, and just like how oh my god.
I don't know if I'm going to do it again. You
can't see it, but I've thrown up my hands.
It was an experiment.
No, that's okay, but like that was like amazing, because just knowing how much work that must have been, and plus it's like 4 parts because of how long it was.
Yeah,
like, what, 4
well, it's
hours
actually
long
probably
or something?
closer to like, I don't know, 8 hours or something, because it was like because it was edited down. So
Oh jeez.
So it was like I made it more concise, so that because I realized that like, oh, people probably don't want to like wait for us to like hem and haw about like where we should go next. It's like, I'll just cut some of this out.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Like, but that's kind of made it streamlined, and like, I don't know. I really like that series. Everything you do is just very like quality, you know? And that's, so when you say like, oh, I don't think I'm that successful, I'm like, you've got a pretty decent following, and I think it's deserved. I think people see that you put in a lot of work into what you make.
Well, same to you.
It's admirable.
It's like, heck yeah. It's like, right back at you.
It's, you know, it's I can dish it out, but I can't take it. I'm really bad at taking compliments.
Yeah, that's what I know. I'm like, hey, you gotta give me some. I'm gonna give you some. It's like, see how it feels, buddy. Feel the love.
It's like I'm like super sincere, and then you're like, oh, you're really good too, and I'm like, oh, what do I say? Shit. Fuck.
It's almost like it's like the school bully that's like not sure, like it's like can't dish it out. It's like, well, thank you. Really good compliment.
I want to ask, what sparked the idea for Pokefusions specifically?
With I think it was just like, I don't remember exactly what inspired it. I think it was just like, this would be dumb, and like I really enjoyed making like roll tables, so it was just like, hey, what would happen if like, like we use dice in D&D? What if I just like rolled for monsters?
That's so creative though. And then you make like super interesting backstories. You don't just like do the stat blocks, but you craft a whole lore around them and make them really unique.
Because I enjoy like BBC documentaries about animals and stuff, and like how they like describe an animal and what it does, and I'm like, what if that but monsters though? So like,
why do you like monsters so much? You seem to be very much a monster fan.
I mean, they just nice. I don't know. It's just something that's like so innately ingrained in the human mind, of just like thing that is just unexplained and scary, but like at the same time is so mutable by like creativity, and like, I don't know. It's hard to describe. It's a creative enigma that you can just do anything with, and I think that I appreciate that. You don't have to follow a specific formula. It don't make sense, but it cool. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good answer.
I mean,
I think what I really enjoy, especially with the ones that you make, are like, they feel real. Like they don't feel like monsters most of the time, unless they're like undead. Like if it's like a creature, it feels like an animal, like an animal with some supernatural ability or something like that. And I find that to be really interesting.
Yeah, that's what I kind of like. It's my like fascination with like weird animal facts coming out, where I would just like take an animal that exists and be like, what if I make this into a D&D mechanic? I think I did that with there are several creatures I did that with the there's like a parasitic fish parasite that sort of attaches to a fish's tongue. It basically eats it, and I use that for like the speech leech. So like as inspiration for that, and I just sort of like try to come up with mechanics that go around that make sense, depending on what's rolled. I'd just be like, oh, okay, this makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever thought about making like your own monster manual of like?
Oh yeah.
Obviously, you wouldn't be able to say Pokemon,
right? That's where I'm
trademark.
kind of like, people are like, oh, you should do like all of them and then make a manual about it. But I'm like, you realize how like cutthroat Nintendo is, right?
Well, the thing is, if you don't mention it once in the entire manual, and it's just like, these are some monsters, and you like avoid all those trademark terms, then if they said, if Nintendo ever did get like up in your grills about it, you could just be like, well, this is clearly an inspiration of a thing, but it's not the same thing. Right. You can't say that's copyright. Obviously, that's a risk you'd have to be ready and willing to take.
Right. It's like, are you ready to be sued? Yeah,
maybe consult a legal expert before
right,
doing
exactly.
Like I think, but I feel like it would be a really cool. I'd buy it. I think. Like,
I think I would enjoy doing that. I just have to figure out how to do it in a way that doesn't anger either party.
Right.
Usually, Wizards of the Coast is more lax. Unfortunately, like I did decide to like have a spectator as my like persona, and that might be problematic down the line. I don't know. Usually they get huffy about like specifically beholders, but I don't know. So
well, I mean, they're okay. I know that Wizards of the Coast are generally okay with supplemental third-party material for their game, as long as you're specifying this is for the 5e D&D or something like that. So I think there's definitely, you could look up like exactly the parameters, because I did before too, to kind of see like, am I allowed to, for example, let's pretend that I'm super big, I'm like the next big thing and everybody loves my animations or whatever, and like, all right, well, I want to sell like a t-shirt with a design on it, but maybe it's drawing inspiration from Curse of Strahd. Am I allowed to sell that t-shirt even though it has something that's the intellectual property of Wizards? And probably not. They're like, well, no, kind of. Like, you can make stuff for free, you can do all the fan stuff you want, they love that because it like,
it's like free advertising for them. They love it.
Yeah, but making money on it is like, there's special rules.
Finger wag. But the it's you can have it be D&D adjacent, essentially.
Right.
And any of the mythical creatures that are obviously just taken from mythical, origins, are completely fine. Gray areas being like obviously beholders. That's their main mascot. So
right, yeah, beholders are extremely unique.
Right.
To to them, you don't have that in anything else, and like. But like, you could do like Roll20 system is in the public domain, which is why Pathfinder exists. So like, a lot of people will make general role-playing merchandise.
Yeah.
They'll be fine with that, no one's coming after them.
So yeah, I do think like eventually making a monster manual is definitely what I'd love to do in the future. However, just doing it in a safe way, I suppose.
For sure. What about like just this year? What are your goals?
Surviving.
yeah, that's fair.
I like this year has been like a waking nightmare, it seems like, for a lot of us. But like, pretty much as far as for goals for the channel, I'd love to finally get out this D&D's story time that I've had for like sitting on the back burner for forever, because it the reason why it's taking so long is because I'm trying to learn like actual animation technique, like 2D animation techniques, and instead of just relying on like still images and calling it animation.
Yeah, and having them bounce between frame changes.
Not to like, I'm deprecating on my previous stuff, not any other like. It's all good. I'm not.
No, that's
I'm
a
not
popular.
making a
lot of people do that. That's not a bad thing.
but it's something that I've always wanted to try, and like, to finally like finish the project and get it out there would be amazing. Because it's 2D animation has always been something that I've wanted to get better at and learn, and like and I picked a style that was like very simplistic, so maybe it's easier. At least learning curve is a little easier.
I know you are so capable of making the most detailed stuff, and like you have to.
But I want it to be finished in my lifetime, is
right. You have to like force yourself to not do as much detail. Like I have to do that for me, and I'm very simplistic. Like I'm not even close to the level of detail that you get with your stuff, and I still have to like tone it down.
Yours is very detailed.
I
don't want to hear it. You do full color backgrounds. I don't want to hear it. So
yeah.
But no, it's like, to me, it's like not about like the level of resolution and detail, especially with like animated projects. Like to me, it's certainly like if the style is something that is very engaging and very beautiful, that's the main thing. It's not how, like, you can have the most photorealistic animation ever, but if it doesn't capture like the essence of the story, then what's the point? It's the same thing as like the original Lion King movie versus the CG one that came out recently. In my eyes, at least.
Yeah, I've boycotted a lot of those remakes.
Oh no,
I can't with them. I mean, there are some okay ones. Like Jungle Book was pretty good. It's pretty good. I liked it. I saw the Beauty and the Beast one. Pretty good. Pretty good. Yeah, I'm not gonna complain about them. They're okay, but like so unnecessary.
It's like, do they really need to have? I get what the point is. Is like, it's a cheap movie, easy to make. It's already basically mostly written. It makes money no matter what. It's safe, so that maybe other projects can be funded that are not so safe. I get it, but come on, I can still complain about it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a business will always strangle art, and that's just
the reality of it.
When you get, especially with a titan like Disney, when you get that big, it's run by the business execs. It's not run by the artists. Walt Disney was one of those rare individuals where he was both an artist and a businessman, and he was able to kind of inject his art into his business, which was something that made Disney like kind of Disney. I mean, it made it wonderful. Like the fact that Disney World exists and it's this place where nothing bad ever happens. That's something that, is a brainchild of this artist, right?
Yeah, Walt Disney is his own kettle of fish as far as like...
But it has evolved, right? It is no longer that idyllic, like, I mean, never, I guess you could argue never really was, but like it is definitely evolved past what it used to be about.
Right.
And it's just now this
it's become a juggernaut that
owns everything.
Consumes corporations.
So it's very scary. All right, I wanna swap gears.
Yeah, no problem.
Gears, shift gears.
Before we get shut down by Disney.
Yeah, before they hear their name being spoken too many times and decide that this is copyright infringement. I want to ask, how did you get first introduced to the world of tabletop RPGs?
Well, I think it was like shows like Table Flip and like Geek and Sundry and stuff like that where it was like online first, is when I was like first introduced, that sort of first resurgence in like the probably 2010s. So I'm like kind of like a
anywhere
newcomer.
From 2012 to like 2015.
Yeah, like
era.
early then. So and like board games were really taking off in new ways because it was a lot easier to learn about them because YouTube was a thing. If you wanted to like see about a game, you could just see it being played and see if it was fun to play. And like I think that's also the reason why Critical Role was such a keystone in reviving D&D.
Right.
But yeah, and so it was like around then, like like early college years. Definitely, played a lot of different tabletop games where we would go and like to the local game store and see what they had, or if they were playing games or demoing games and stuff. Like that was when it was really really big for me, at least. But I don't know, what about you? Like when did you first get introduced to the hobby?
I actually learned about, I kind of knew about D&D like in the background. I never really seriously considered engaging in it. Like I don't know if you remember the Dexter's Laboratory episode where Dee Dee becomes the DM.
Exactly.
And she's like, you're walking and you're walking. And he's like, you're in a dungeon, or no, he's like, you're in a forest. And it's like, I thought we were in a dungeon. Fine, dungeon forest. And like the background changes every time she says something. I thought that was really clever, and I really liked that episode. But like, I never thought further about it.
Yeah, never put the two together until later on, and I'm like, oh, that's what it was about. It's like, I just thought it was this weird like thing they were doing. Right.
And then like it wasn't, and I love board games and card games and stuff ever since I was a kid, because my dad used to play them with me all the time.
Yeah.
But then like, what was it, like 2009, like my senior year of high school. God, I'm fucking old.
It's okay.
I like
same.
I talked to this new friend of mine I had met in class, because I was like going to this sort of it was like extra classes that you could take if you were in your junior or senior year of high school, where it's like in a different building where other high schools will send their students to for like advanced classes. So I like went there, and I was meeting new people who weren't in my high school, which is great because like my high school is full of terrible people. So I like got into this other friend group from a different school because they were big nerds. And like I met this one kid who was talking about playing D&D, or I guess Pathfinder at the time. And talking about this, like he's like trying to solve this puzzle, and I'm like in class, like I'm like, all right, well, have you tried this? And I'm like trying to give him ideas to solve this puzzle. So I'm like implicitly playing D&D without even playing it, you know?
Yeah, it's like your pseudo DM,
right? And I thought that was so cool. And then like a couple years later, I remember he invited me to play, and I was like, nah, dude, I don't have time. It's all about Magic the Gathering right now. Like it was 2011, I think, at this point. And I was like super into Magic. But I was like, but I'm not
huge then.
I'm not going to play D&D. I'm not that big of a nerd. And like,
like,
what a stupid thought, you know? Like, that's so dumb.
I get it though. Like, I get it. Like, people don't understand that, like, back in the day, like, nerds weren't cool, all right? So, like, you were self-conscious to be seen as, like, indulging in something that you liked, which is very ironic and stupid, and like, don't do that, okay?
Yeah, it's not worth it. Trying to hide your like true interests and true self from other people because you fear how you're going to be seen at the expense of you liking the things that you like is just not worth it. I mean, unless you live in some crazy barbaric community that like kills nerds, like maybe then keep it secret.
Maybe then, like, be safe.
Hopefully you don't, though, and you should just be yourself, man. Fly your flag, you know.
Heck yeah.
But like, what happened with me, I guess, was like, eventually, I think it was around 2013, I knew some people from when I was playing Magic. I would play like Friday Night Magics. I met some people, and I would go there to play Magic, and they invited me to play a system called World of Darkness. Have you ever heard of it?
No, I haven't heard of it.
Have you heard of Vampire the Masquerade?
Yes.
That's the world. It's called the World of Darkness, and that's one variant where you can play as a vampire, but they have other ones, like Werewolf the Chosen and Changeling the whatever, and so there's all these different books that allow you to play as different race/classes, and like you can have them all in the same like setting if you want. So they got this guy to DM and or to storytell, because it's a storyteller, and I played a werewolf who I put like points in partial transformation, and I thought this was kind of neat. I thought it would play like a video game, and so I went to go like rob a store, and someone else was playing like some detective with like a ghost partner, like their ghost ally, right?
Nice.
And so in this world, the only people that can see ghosts are these types of like bonded people, like this detective, and fucking werewolves. So like the ghost said something and I responded, and then they both looked at me like, what? you can see him? I'm like, yeah, can everybody? Like, I was just like, oh yeah, sure. And that's when I got the first taste of like how fun role playing could be.
Yeah.
And I was hooked. At that point, I was like, oh shit. And I contacted that friend from before. I'm like, hey, are you guys playing Pathfinder or something? He's like, actually, we are starting up a game. I'm like, I want in.
Oh yeah. Like, I think I've told the story before, but like my first game of D&D like didn't go as well. Like, we had a couple like veteran players and kind of a DM that was like a little bit wishy-washy with things. And then the second time that I was like, okay, it didn't go so well the first time, but maybe next time it'll be fine. It was with a different DM, and like essentially it was just a trap heavy dungeon. Just imagine like nothing, basically like Gary Gygax's
Tomb of Horrors type. Yeah,
like essentially that. And it was just like, this is not a, is this game supposed to be fun? It was pretty bad, but so I was turned off of D&D for a while, thinking like, man, this just seems like a video game. Like, why do people like this? Like, and so and that's the reason why after seeing like it being played like in different media like Critical Role and podcasts and things, like, oh wait, this game can be fun. DMs were just dicks.
Yeah, no, your DM that's such a huge deal.
Yeah, it's such a huge deal to like make it, like make that first, bite like good, like instead of just being like, okay, here's some numbers. All right.
It's been said on the podcast before, but it bears repeating. Like, bad D&D is worse than no D&D. Like, just not playing D&D and pining for it it's gonna hurt a little bit because you're not playing it and you really want to, and I understand that, I really do. But trust me, it's way better than having a DM that just doesn't give a shit about your backstory, or you're in their fucking world and it's their rules, and you're just watching. Like, you're basically on a railroad the whole time. Like, that shit isn't fun. And then there's the horror stories, which luckily, well, I do have a couple actually. But
do you have some good ones? I want to hear the.
Do you want to share a horror story?
Yeah.
This is all right. So, okay. I had a DM at one point. We were playing Pathfinder, and we had a group of people that were playing. Some people had to leave, so I invited my friend from work, who is a nerd, like a video game nerd. She loves video games, but she never played D&D. And I was like, hey, my buddy is running this campaign. I can help you make your character. We could do basically whatever you want. You have total freedom. We'll make what you want, and we could put that into the world and introduce you. She's like, yeah, sure. So we made her this thing. I think it was like a cat folk of some kind. It was really like unique character. And she gets into the world. Oh no, I was DM. Excuse me. No, I was DMing, but one of the players did something not okay. This is what happened. Okay, so yes, I'm sorry. So I was inviting her to play in my thing, and so I ripped the story of Seven Samurai, where it was like they were low level, but not like, I think they were like level 3 maybe. So they're not like, level 1 or anything. And I had them show up at this village because these farmers are going to be raided by bandits, and they need heroes to help them out, and all they could afford were to hire this party, right? So I was going to have them just basically kind of figure out how they were going to defend the town, and they had like free reign to set up their own defenses, strategies to fight these bandits. They know what direction they're going to come from. They could send a scout to kind of feel out how many there's going to be. And like, that all went well. That was all going fine.
I mean, it sounds like a solid session.
Right.
But
here's a detail about this player I invited. She happens to be black, and the people I play with happen to be white.
Oh, no.
Shouldn't be a big deal, but for one player, apparently he couldn't keep his trap shut about it, and I drawn portraits of the NPCs, and one character was like betraying the town in like he was like a spy for the bandits or whatever. So he was going to run off and warn the bandits about the heroes, but the heroes intercepted him and beat the crap out of him, right? And so I like for fun, I redrew his face to have like a puffed up lip and a black eye and to just look like he got beat up. Mm-hmm. Well, this player decided to make a comment about the lip that was racial in nature as a joke. And what? I just stared at him. Nobody laughed. I just stared at him. And he, like, it didn't dawn on him at first because he was still laughing from his own joke. What he just said.
Oh, God.
And I'm like, I was speechless. I was like, how did you think that was an okay joke to make? Like, eventually, well, I don't remember how that ended. I talked with her.
Yeah, did you apologize for? I mean, like,
I apologized for sure, and she was like, "I'm not mad at you. I don't know him. Like, we were talking on the phone later about this, and she was like, I don't know him. Like, maybe I don't know. Maybe you made that joke. I'd be okay with it, but like, I don't know who he is, so I don't know what his intentions are when he does that. So I don't think I'm coming back. And I'm like, that's understandable. I'm so sorry that happened.
That's so sad.
Yeah, and he apologized too because he realized that was stupid. But it's like it's too little, too late, man. You can't just whip jokes out like that and think it's fine. Like,
especially when you like immediately like laugh at your own joke about it. Like, that's a little.
Like, yeah. And that gets into territory of people who, they want to relax and just have fun. But the thing is, when they relax, they let down their walls and start making really rude or offensive comments because that's where their sense of humor is at. And it's like,
yeah, it's, and then like, the thing is that like a lot of times like D&D will bring out like a different side of yourself. And like, it's one way D&D can be therapy where you kind of let out, some of your insecurities or so, like let yourself go essentially. And sometimes that can be a great way to overcome some like emotional baggage that you've had. And other times it can bring out some really bad stuff.
Yeah. I mean, it's basically kind of therapy with game rules.
Right. Exactly. And I've noticed that too, where sometimes when you're like playing with someone and you didn't realize this aspect about their personality and you're just like, oh,
and it's not even that I didn't know that he enjoys that kind of humor. Like, and this was years ago, by the way. This wasn't like yesterday. But like, you can relax. It is possible to relax and have fun with people and still be mindful of what you say and still be mindful of how other people might take what you say. Just because you enjoy humor doesn't mean everyone else will enjoy it. I had to learn this the hard way. I went through an edgy phase where I loved like offensive humor. And then, I tried to share some of this humor. Like I played a YouTube video of like this podcast I used to listen to my friends and like nobody laughed. And that fucking hurt. That was painful because they looked at me like, you like this shit? And I'm like,
oh God. It's like the worst feeling of like showing people you're like, oh, this is so like, I love this YouTuber. And it's like, here it is. And then it's just like a silent room while they're watching it. It's just like,
yeah, but it made me self-reflect. Like, why do I enjoy this humor so much? Like, what is it about it? And I realized it's not even the offensive part of it. It's like, I just love absurdity. And you can achieve very absurd humor with just offensive things, but you can also get absurdity without that. Like, it doesn't require it to be hurtful to others to be absurd. And once I realized that that's what I like, I didn't feel as though I needed to seek out that sort of humor anymore, and I stopped listening to stuff like that.
Right. It's like it's kind of hard to find like comedians that like don't poo-poo on everyone else. It's which is sad. But that's certainly a comedy that seems to resonate with a lot of people and is very popular.
Right. Well, I mean, I for comedians, I don't know. I don't try to like put forth rules on how comedians should tell jokes. I just judge them individually and think, I don't think they're funny, or I don't think that's funny,
Yeah,
or like,
exactly.
I because some people say, well, the purpose of comedy is to push boundaries, and I'm like, maybe, I don't know. That's a philosophical debate that can be had. I don't actually know if that's necessarily true. I'm not gonna argue for or against it, but like I will just say that maybe this person's funny, maybe they're not, and and I'll try to like, if I think that maybe they might also be offensive and I find them funny, I'll try to like zero in on, obviously it's not the offensive thing because I don't like that. So what is it about them that's funny?
Yeah, which I agree with. It's like everyone has their own brand that they ascribe to,
which is very true. And I think that's also why session zeros are important. I didn't know it back then, but I know it now. Like,
oh heck yeah, especially when you're bringing on someone new. Like a session 0 is so important.
You gotta set forth those expectations,
even like a one shot, and like this is like something that's important. It's like where there's just no like there's essentially just no ties, no worries, no anything. Just like, okay, we're gonna show up for this one session, and then we're gonna do this thing, and just to see how they are as players. Because sometimes when you sign up for a year-long campaign, and then there's one person that's just like rubbing everyone the wrong way, you can either boot them or just
it sucks too, because like you don't want it to come to that. You don't want to boot somebody. It's easier when it's a one shot, because like you just wait till the end of the session and you don't have to play again with those people, right?
And then you're just like, yeah, we had a great time, like just gonna not do this again.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's your freedom to make that decision, absolutely.
Yeah.
And you don't owe anyone an explanation for why you don't want to play either. That's like up to you as well. But it's,
I don't know if that's like the coward's way out, but it seems like the most non-confrontational.
Yeah, I was going to say it's not confrontational. You don't want to necessarily be confrontational with people, especially like if it's someone you're playing with and you don't dislike them, but you just don't really, their style of play and your style of play just don't jive, right?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, you just don't play, with a
that,
campaign,
again, the credo is, like bad D&D, it's like it's worse than no D&D.
Exactly. And with a campaign, you don't have the luxury of just, I mean, you can dip out whenever, I suppose, but if you want to see, if you're invested in your character and you're invested in everyone else's characters and you want to see this story to its fruition, to see it like develop and finish, and one person is just making it less, like if that one person wasn't an issue, then you got to talk to your DM, about your issues with this person. And that DM has to make a decision. And if that DM is refusing to get rid of the person who is ruining your fun for whatever reason, you have to make the decision of whether it's worth it to stay in the game.
Yeah, whether it's not worth it to stay around.
Right.
And it's like,
You can also try talking to that person too, if you think that an open dialogue might be fruitful. Maybe that person just doesn't understand. I mean, that's the thing. That's what happened with my friend. Like, they just didn't understand where the line was. I get it. You miss social cues, but still, these dialogues have to happen. You can't just assume, oh, well, because I have trouble with social situations, I can say whatever I want. Like, no, you got to learn.
No, you just got to maybe make a little bit more of an effort.
Right.
Than most people. But yeah, it's definitely tough. It's funny though, like I feel like D&D like sessions run into that a lot, because as nerds, we're maybe not the most social butterflies. We don't know what's going on.
True.
Like talking is hard, okay? Like interacting with people is hard. It doesn't come naturally to most of us who enjoy this type of hobby. Maybe I'm just on a limb here, but like,
no, I think there's truth in that. I agree. I'm like, one of the things I like about this podcast is because I get to talk about stuff I like.
Yeah.
And I don't talk about this enough with people in my real life. So I find nerds online. I go, hey, let's talk about this shit. Like, it's just, it's much more enjoyable to do that. In this format, in this setting, a one-on-one, or maybe even like a 3-person like conversation is fine.
Yeah.
But like when I'm in my real life, like with a group of people, I'm way less outgoing.
Exactly. People don't realize necessarily that we put on a little bit of a persona when we make videos, just to be like, because I feel like, in actuality, my, usual self is it's a little more quiet. It's not necessarily as like rambunctious or like, assertive and, I don't know, charismatic as when it comes off on screen. I'm a little bit of a nerdy mess, and that's okay. But like, yeah, it's just but that's okay.
It's okay. I mean, that's not a requirement of being a nerd is being sociable. It's just D&D's nice though, because if your problem, let's say, is anxiety, or social anxiety specifically, D&D can help you work through that.
Oh yeah,
because you're in a place with, let's say, people you trust, and you're not. It's not you. It's the characters, right? So it's like you're working through that through your characters. It's not going to solve the issue. It doesn't make these things go away, but it gives you practice and a way to like cope and deal with that stuff, other than just maybe taking meds for it. Like it helps you sort of, I don't know. I just, it's therapy essentially. It's therapy.
Yeah, I definitely feel like D&D helped a lot with like my depression and anxiety, where I was just like, it was not a fun time, and I didn't have like a lot of people to talk to, or even like, I didn't want to like bother people with these problems, and like, so instead I could just be like, well, I can't necessarily solve my real life problems, but at least like this story in game, like I can help and participate with, and it's kind of, again, it's like it's therapy, and you can play out these things, or even like address different problems you're having, through your character in a sense. And a lot of internal things that I've struggled with, I've addressed with my characters, and like especially like with Gray, just coming to terms with like, I coming to terms with the fact that I'm trans, or coming to terms with the fact that I'm, not necessarily straight, and a lot of other things that I've grappled with life. And it's an easy way to let those themes play out. I don't know.
For
I don't know.
sure.
Have you sort of come to any like realizations like through playing a character or so? Like,
oh yeah,
with things.
I didn't realize this until very recently, actually, but like almost all of my characters are asexual or just aromantic. Just very few are interested in romance at all. Partially because I'm so uncomfortable with like romance at all. So like having to role play flirting, even as like pretend. That's no.
God, yeah.
I can't do it. Like I can try. And I guess if I'm like an over the top character, if the character's more removed from myself, more disassociated from me, like a crazy sort of like class clown type character, it's a lot easier to just pretend. If they're like I had a character that I played in a one shot with some other YouTubers. Actually, Aiden was in it.
Nice.
And he's like this sort of like pompous thrill seeker, and all he loves to do is he just wants to do anything that's going to make his adrenaline rush. And at one point, the DM had we were at this party in this mansion, right? And the lady of the house decided that she fancied my character in a smooth talking ways. So I decided to challenge myself to try and flirt with this character. And my reasoning was not because he's necessarily super attracted to her, although in the game she was meant to be that way, but she's married, and it's a thrill to to sleep with another man's wife.
Oh no.
He's not, yeah, right. So like that was his main reasoning. So he like, I was able to get through that by looking at it from that angle instead, which was a lot easier for me. And so like, yeah, I guess I don't know if I've ever talked about this on my podcast yet, but I am on the ace spectrum and aro spectrum. Not fully either of those. I'm like demi both. Definitely demi-romantic, still kind of figuring out the demisexual thing.
Nice, I'm also demi, so there you go.
Yeah.
It's like, Yeah, that's that's also it's what makes role playing like different characters that are nothing like yourself kind of like a nice revelation, because sometimes you it's a way of figuring things out and figuring out who you are as a person when you're playing characters that you're not necessarily, especially ones that are, and it can help you even like characters that are more maybe more socially inclined can help you out to
Right.
become maybe that way a little bit better in real life, just through practice, you know.
Yeah, literally, it is just practice.
um
Even if the situations are different, you pick up on those, moments. And so when you're faced with something more real, you have options that you've already kind of gone through while playing a game that you can now utilize that sort of attitude or whatever in this situation.
yeah, you can use fantasy abilities in real life. I can shoot fireballs.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, yeah, I can pick locks and steal things.
It's amazing.
And get away from the town guard. Oh, I forgot about guns. Whoops. But yeah, like I definitely have come to some realizations about myself through characters. And like, I think something that bleeds into all my characters is this desire to like survive and not win, I guess. That's not really the right term, but like, I'm constantly after the happy ending, and I'm generally trying to avoid the unhappy endings.
I'm like the opposite. It's kind of hilarious. Like like with all my characters, I want to watch them burn. It's like,
that's beautiful.
It's just,
they're a firework that you just can't wait to light off.
I don't know if like it's just some sort of like something like psychologically like bad, where it's just like, no, I just want to like, it's like essentially a kid taking a magnifying glass to an anthill and just seeing what happens. But I love to overload my characters with so many flaws that it's just like, it's kind of amazing if anything like comes of it, if they are even able to overcome their own problems. Because sometimes they do, and then it's those moments that are just like, whoa, what?
Right.
It's amazing, kind of thing.
But I've realized recently, after I've been able to finish a few campaigns, that it's not that I'm after a happy ending. I'm after a happy, or not happy, but a fulfilling journey.
Yeah.
And the end can be whatever, as long as it makes sense for the character. And like, I think that was a big realization, is that acceptance of like, the characters would die all the time back when I was like playing Pathfinder, but a lot of times they die so early on, it's shitty because I never got a chance to really get into this character.
Right, yeah. And it's,
but like when you get to, oh, sorry.
No. It's like you got to cultivate those relationships so you can, watch them crumble.
Right. So their death can mean something, like, or when you get to the point where you don't care if you survive anymore, like that was a big deal. Like that happened with, I don't want to say whose characters these happened with, maybe because they might be in future videos, but this happened with several characters that I've played where I stopped focusing on survival and started focusing on a goal or a mission, and survival be damned. If I die, I die,
Yeah.
or
Gotta go for it.
Whatever. And that's kind of liberating in a way. Because it's like you're ready to let go of this character if need be. You're ready to, like, if they die, move on.
Yeah, and it's like, especially if your character would canonically, like, it makes sense for them to care about the other characters they formed such a strong relationship with. And it can be moving, and like there could be tears at the table. Like, it's great. I love it.
Yeah.
I love those moments.
And I think as a side effect, it's those characters where I actually learn something about myself, and once I've gained that from the character, I'm ready to let them go. So like the whole like sexual orientation thing, like that happened, and then once I started to, I was like, oh my god, what the hell's, is there words for this? And like I started like looking it up and figuring it out, and then once I felt like I was closer to or on the right path to figure it out. Like maybe I hadn't, settled yet, but like I was asking the right questions. Then I was ready to like let that character go because I realized that I got what I needed from it.
Yeah, and it's just sort of it's great with that though. Like, what character specifically was it that made you realize that? Or you don't have to give it away if you don't want to.
I'll give it away because I did reveal this on Twitter and on my Patreon.
Yeah.
But it's Ophelia from my series.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so she's ace, and like I kind of knew that implicitly, but I never wrote the words asexual on her character sheet.
Right.
And in fact, most characters I made were this way, and I just thought this was just like how I make characters.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I get that.
It wasn't until Ophelia that I realized, like, where I started asking the question, like, why do I always make my characters this way? And then I started to self-reflect.
And then you're just like, okay, yeah, was there any like particular moment that sort of led you to sort of believe like, okay, wait a second, like this is hitting different,
Yeah, there is. And it's a little bit of a tiny spoiler, but like,
I don't mean to give away too much if it's later on.
Anyone who's listening to this will most likely not remember.
That's all good.
I'm not worried. But like, there's a point where this other character, this NPC, is kind of smitten with Ophelia, and the party's sort of poking fun at her because they both have sort of a goth aesthetic, and like, oh, you guys are a cute couple, blah blah blah. And like the NPC's getting very embarrassed, and Ophelia's just rolling her eyes like, could you all please just shut up? Like, this is because she wants to talk to this character because they are also a wizard like her, and she wants to do like a spell exchange. Mm-hmm. But they're all like, you want to be alone so you can kiss him or some shit. And like, it was just, I didn't realize it at the time, but I was getting personally annoyed. Like, Shane was getting annoyed. Like, why would you assume that about her? That's not what she wants. But then I'm like, why am I so annoyed about this? And then I'm like, maybe this isn't about Ophelia. And like
wait
I started
to
think about it a little bit. Yeah, and it wasn't, and it had nothing to do with like gay or straight orientation. It was just the presence of attraction at all. Like why is that a thing? And I started thinking about how like other people I've played with love to do like role play where they flirt with other characters and they have PC relationships and stuff. They love doing that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And like, that's foreign to me. I don't get it. I just can't understand why you'd want to do that.
Yeah, I'll occasionally do that as a joke, or sometimes if I do it, it's in a more like romantic way where it's not necessarily with the implication of sex or anything.
Yeah. If it's, there are moments where I'm able to, but again, that's the demi side of me,
exactly.
Where it's like, if it's way into a campaign and like these characters have been through a lot, then I'm more readily able to roleplay that, and I don't mind it so much.
Yeah.
But that rarely.
I also feel like it's
happens.
weird because like I can see behind the curtain, and it's like am I like flirting with the DM right now for sex? This is weird.
Well, see, that's why I'm always like, once it gets to a certain point, I don't care who's the DM. I say fade to black.
Fade to black. We're not describing that.
I'm not role-playing this. It's not happening. This isn't Community, okay?
All right.
Where everyone just starts taking notes. That's not happening.
Oh, God.
All
right. It's like, this is pivotal to the plot. Very pivotal. All right. But
I think, I guess I have one last question for you.
Yeah.
Before we're finished here. And this is another example of shifting gears here, but I think it's just as important as everything we talked about today. I need to know, what are your 3 favorite Pokemon?
3 favorite Pokemon? Jesus. That's too hard, man.
Listen, this is the most important question I'm going to ask you today, so I'm going to need some answers.
Man.
I gave you the option of picking 3 instead of just 1.
It changes constantly, so I don't even know. Like, do I get a certain gen, or like, is there like specific, or is it just any?
Why don't you just pick 3 that you like, and they can all be from the same or different gens. Doesn't really matter. They don't have to be the top 3, but they can be in your top 15, top 20 or whatever. Highlight 3 for us.
Oh God. Okay. I don't know why, but like first probably coming to mind is Trapinch, just because it's like so doofy. It's so cute. It's just like, who designed you? It's just like who
You do not. Also,
it's,
what you evolve into, this does not compute. This doesn't follow.
well, I guess because it's like it yeah, it goes from an antlion to like a dragonfly. That doesn't quite make sense, but most Pokemon don't make sense. Like Remoraid and Octillery, like they're supposed to be based on guns, but it's like a fish into an octopus. I mean, it's like, okay, all right then, all right, we're going with it. So we'll say Trapinch. Oh God, this is hard.
I just looked up antlion, and I didn't realize that there was actually a real world analog to Trapinch
like
and
they're
Vibrava.
real. That's a real bug.
Oh my
And
god!
Vibrava is just a dragonfly nymph. So
Oh my god!
yeah, it's probably just the larval form of a dragonfly, really, like the pre, form.
I guess yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my! I'm an idiot.
Most Pokemon are like based on real animals, which is weird.
Yeah, I figured there was something going on
Um,
with the dragonflies, but I didn't think the larva looked like that. That surprised
Ah,
me.
okay, like, man, it's hard. I really I like Golurk a lot. Golurk is really cute.
Golurk is very cool.
It's just like this. It's just this big. It's like a Gundam, but like kind of one that kind of fell apart. It's just this misshapen lump of rocks that's just like, I'm here. I'm here to help you. I'm gonna take
By the
off
way, I'm
with my
also
little
a
rocket
ghost.
boots. It's so Japan. It's beautiful. And as a classic, maybe is the last one, Gyarados, just because it's just a good Pokemon. It's just like,
It's a great design too. I used to draw Gyarados as a kid all the time.
yeah, I did too. Like that and Charizard, obviously. The Charizard's been getting too much love lately, and I'm just like, I'm kind of done. I'm like, just,
Yeah, it's a little bit. It's not. I don't want to say it's not cool to love Charizard anymore because that's not nice to Charizard.
but we're saying that. I'm sorry.
There are so many other Pokemon. You can't just focus on only Charizards. You know.
But yeah, I used to draw Gyarados. Like the mouth, I would just draw like a rectangle and like little teeth, like because that's basically what it is.
Yeah, it's like a rectangle that's been punched and like dented in the
Yeah,
side.
it's perfect. It's like, if you want to draw Gyarados today, here's some tips.
So we got Trapinch, Golurk, and Gyarados are your
Yeah.
top three, better than everything else.
No, like there's definitely like a lot more than that. It's just those are the ones that came to mind first. But
I mean, that's a pretty diverse spread there.
Yeah.
You got Gen 1, 3, and 5.
what about you, huh? What's your favorites? Put you on the spot.
I don't have to answer my own questions. No, I'll tell you. I think I said this on a previous podcast with, I think, Vitamin Dieter, because we talked a lot about Pokemon. But my absolute favorite, beyond a shadow of a doubt, is Crobat.
Crobat's a good one. Crobat's really good.
In order to get Crobat, you have to go into Mount Moon or wherever, where everyone complains about Zubats.
You gotta love that
drowning in
Zubat so
Zubats.
hard until it becomes a beautiful baby.
But that's the thing. You pick a Zubat and you go, you and me, we're gonna be best fucking friends. And then you like raise that Zubat with love and care, and eventually, it comes a Golbat. But if you raised it well enough, the next level, it's a Crobat. It doesn't stay Golbat for long.
Yeah, it's like, it's puberty, all right? It's like get that Ugo phase before it like becomes beautiful.
Crobats are just, and their stats are really nice too. So like if you're into like the
it's so
mechanical side of
fast.
Pokemon, they're like really well balanced. They're a poison flyer that have like pretty decent poison attacks. Like I love them. I feel like they're one of the most reliable Pokemon.
Yeah, I think I would always have a Crobat whenever I played Gen 2 Gold Silver. 'Cause
Yeah,
it's such a good Pokemon.
they're so good. They're amazing. And it really bugs me that you can't, in Fire Red, which is after Gen 2, you can't get Crobats until after you beat the Elite Four and like unlock these other islands, and then you get the National Dex, and then you can get them. I'm like, I hate that. Like that doesn't make any sense. You're just locking it for no reason. Just let me get a Crobat, please.
Mm-hmm.
And then
it's good stuff.
And then if we're going second best, or second favorite would be Gallade,
Oh,
which is the Ralts, and
Yeah.
then Curlia, and then she either becomes Gardevoir or Gallade.
Yeah, the male
And
form of Gardevoir, the
Yeah,
Gardevoir line.
I like both personally, but Gallade is like a knight, and something about like a knightly Pokemon that's chivalrous and will protect you. I really like that.
I like its design, except for it's like, although it does have like nice hips for a guy Pokemon, which I can understand.
Yeah, it's just literally a cylinder.
it's like what you're wearing an inner tube.
Right.
It's beautiful.
I think it's a really cool design, and I also want to make like a team of knights now that like you can have Sirfetch'd and there's Pawniard or Bisharp, I mean.
Yeah.
So like you can make it work, and I definitely want to do that at some point, is make like a bunch of knight Pokemon in one party.
Bisharp always reminds me of a Power Ranger, and it's like beautiful.
I love that. I love that design.
It's like an evil Power Ranger.
They remind me of basically like an action figure that's super dense and heavy and just has blades all over it.
It's adorable. All right, last one.
Last one, and this is purely for aesthetic reasons and nostalgia from the show, but Squirtle.
Oh, yeah, Squirtle's real cute.
The fact that he wears Kamina glasses and leads a fucking gang, I will never forget the Squirtle Squad for as long as I live.
Never
They're
forget.
Amazing.
Hashtag Squirtle Squad.
Hashtag Squirtle Squad. They're so cool. And I've got like a little plush like keychain Squirtle on my backpack, and I carry it with me, and like whenever I go somewhere, if there's like kids, they're like, Pokemon, I'm like, yeah.
Like, yeah, I like Pokemon, I'm cool.
Yeah, I'm 29 years old.
It's all good.
What am I doing with my life?
I know, it's all good. I feel the same way whenever it's like I like Pokemon still, but I'm like 27. It's should I? Is it? Although the most recent gen, maybe I don't like Pokemon as much.
Well, I stopped playing after X and Y because
fair.
You know what? Hold on.
I don't think I finished Sun and Moon. I think I never got through the tutorial hell that was that game.
Yeah. I've heard some things about that one. Side note, do you have time to just chat for a little bit longer after the podcast here?
Oh yeah, sure, that's fine.
All right, so here's what I'm going to do. Everyone, I want to thank you for listening to Podcasts and Players with Jess Jackdaw. You can find him on Twitter and on YouTube and on Instagram. I think they're all the same, right? Just Jess Jackdaw?
Yeah, it's just Jess Jackdaw.
Yep, you can find his stuff. Please follow, like, subscribe, hit the bell, do all that good stuff.
Yeah, dude, yeah. And like check out all of Cool Shane's awesome content. It's good. Hit that bell. Slap it. Don't slap your computer. Don't actually. We're not liable for damages.
You don't have to try and pimp me out. It's fine. But I want to say I'm gonna talk with just a little bit more about Pokemon, and if you don't mind, Jess, if I could continue recording and then maybe release that on Patreon, so if people want to hear about our Pokemon talk,
that's fine.
Yeah, they can find it on Patreon. A little extra bonus content for people if they're interested.
Heck yeah!
But thank you for being on the show with us.
Yeah, it's good. I had a good time.
I say us like I'm multiple people. Thanks for being on the show with me.
But yeah, it's the royal us, I suppose.
It is the royal us.
Me and my collection of dice.